This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Sheist Podcast Network.
Hello, once again, Bad Movie Lovers. I am your host, Nick Sheist, and
if you're listening to this, you are the Resistance.
You can help support the Resistance by going over to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Bad Movies We Love. I am still figuring out what those membership options are going to be, but right now, you can go there and you can donate, and it will be much appreciated. Your donations go a long way when supporting independent podcasts. And for today's episode, I was joined by a friend of the show, one of my cohorts at the Sheist International Film Club, Jamila Brown. She stopped by to talk about a movie that is as infamous as it is famous within the horror genre. And we're talking about the movie that's responsible for launching the term torture porn. It's Eli Roth's 2005 tourist horror film, Hostel.
I'm just gonna watch this dumb crap while I'm folding laundry.
Pretty universally considered to be a not so good movie.
I just feel like the people who don't like it, they're missing things.
What he was doing on the dark web looking for murder vacations, I don't want to know.
We're gonna see these hookers.
Guy's asleep and he's got ass cheeks in his face.
Buddy movies are exercises in latent homosexual yearnings.
So he watched that movie, barfed, and then was like, I gotta do this for a living.
Assholes, and I'm just gonna be able to enjoy watching them get killed.
Oh, he just got done with a night of tons of murdering and torturing.
Are Europeans more concerned with the clit? Is that what it is?
You know what? I'm just gonna watch funny reels on Instagram because I need a palate cleanser before I go to sleep.
Okay, well, you're my bitch now.
All right, don't let the lady's voice intimidate you. We are recording now. But Jamila, thank you so much for working with me on finding a time that works for both of us to talk about your movie of choice for this show, and that is Hostel. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to ask you some other questions before I get to sort of the basics that I always go over, but have you done other podcasts before?
No, only Steph's podcast. I got an invitation recently for one of my other mutuals, so I guess I'm a podcast girl now. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, well, thank you for reaching out to me. I'm always looking for new movies to bring to Bad Movies We Love. And until you mentioned Hostel, I never, I guess, in my own mind, envisioned it as a bad movie. I mean, I know it it had its reputation and it was sort of infamous.
Yeah.
And it was very much of a certain time, and it sort of coined the term torture porn, which, then
Right.
got applied to a lot of other movies beyond that. But I guess just my own memory was I thought people liked Hostel as a horror movie. And then as I go back and I see some of the the Rotten Tomato scores and critic scores and even audience scores, I'm like, oh, wow, this is pretty universally considered to be a not so good movie. And I think that got me more excited to rewatch it and to sort of revisit it, because I think with the benefit of hindsight and sort of the way that social media cycles work, there's a movie like this that's approaching 20 years old that really hasn't been seen by an entire generation of, young movie fans. So this is sort of entering almost the realm of reappraisal in a couple more years, it'll be like Hostel's a 20-year-old film. And I think a lot more people that are like more ingrained film critics and people in the industry will start to sort of look at it again around the 20-year mark, which it's an easier line of demarcation to be like, okay, it's been 20 years. Like, does this movie still hold up? Like, what can we take from it? And so it's a very different experience now. But you co-hosted with me when we did Film Club recently, and we talked about Godfather, which is, of course, like a beloved film. We talked about it for basically 4 hours because people just kept showing up. And I was like, okay, well, if they want to show up and say something, that's perfectly fine. But now we get to do this one-on-one. This gets to be your time. And so first I want to ask you, like, how was the experience doing the co-hosting?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. It's kind of interesting. I feel like a part of the reason why it was so long is not only because it was like beloved, but also because there's just so many themes that you can take away from The Godfather. There's just so much to talk about. And I feel similarly about this movie, but it's kind of like the complete opposite. It's like a really tight, like 90 something minutes. But yeah, I just think there's a lot that you could take away from it. And I feel not to say like you can't like this movie. I just feel like the people who don't like it, they're missing things. But like, yeah, I think like you said, like I'm pretty sure Ebert like just thought it was disgusting. Somebody, I feel like his name was like Elosine or something, coined the term torture porn.
Mm.
And they also said like, kind of Rob Zombie does this thing, and the guy who made the Saw movies,
Lee
what's his
Wanell.
face? Yeah. So all those movies kind of contributed to this new genre of horror films. And I've seen those films, and I've seen Eli Roth's first film, Cabin Fever,
Mm-hmm.
which wasn't terrible to me. I just think this was better. This is way better. This is better executed. And I'm not sure why that is. I kind of wonder, I know Quentin was kind of his mentor, and he was one of the producers.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like all the producers had a lot of collaboration with him as far as the story and getting it right. Basically, he came up with the story. I guess, one of those videos that were like circulating online of like seeing people get tortured, getting beheaded, basically. And he wanted to like research it. He wanted to turn it into like a documentary and like go to like some places in like Eastern Europe, and and then he realized like this is kind of like I can't find any credible sources, so I'm just going to make like a horror film, and I'm not going to make it like political by like having the antagonist be, something like Al Qaeda or something. Like I'm just gonna make it, like, make it this sexual thing. But I think the fact that there's like a sexual element to it kind of makes it political in a way. And I first heard about this film. I watched that movie Fresh. Do you remember that movie that came out last year?
The Sebastian Stan one on Hulu.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah,
got around to it, but I do know of it. Yes.
I really enjoyed it. It's definitely more of like a comedic horror film. And I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, what film podcast, but the co-hosts were like, "Oh, this movie is okay. Fresh is okay, but like Hostel is like a better version of this." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I have to check out Hostel." And I honestly didn't think I would like it. Like I was saying before going in, I was just like, "Oh, okay. These are just assholes, and I'm just gonna be able to enjoy watching them get killed." you know, I didn't really think it was kind of gonna be. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like commentary. Like you watch it and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch these people get killed, and by the end of it, you are kind of like sympathizing with them, and like you're like goading them to get out of this situation, and it's kind of making you realize, oh well, this is like a really messed up situation. Like in particular, Jay Hernandez's character,
Mhm.
He was just like a total prick. And so you're just kind of like looking forward to witnessing them get their just desserts. And I don't know, the film kind of makes you think that it positions that one character. I think his name was Josh. I think his name was Josh, yeah. And you're kind of supposed to,
The white boyfriend.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Josh or John. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of makes him seem like the protagonist, and you kind of assume
Mhm.
he's going to be the final boy because he's kind of a bit more virtuous. He's kind of a bit more like
Stereotypical.
reluctant. Yeah. Um, uh, like you kind of think he is, and then it's just so surprising to see him like get killed in the first act. He's kind of like this
Hmm.
Marion Crane sort of character. And then it kind of shifts perspective to Jay Hernandez's character. And I liked how they had that scene where he's talking about, oh, I witnessed this girl when I was 8 years old, and she drowned in a pool, I think. And I tried to save her. I tried to get the lifeguard to save her, and she ended up dying because they weren't paying attention. And he just says that he remembers just being haunted by that for such a long time. And so it kind of is there like a really great like kind of foreshadows him going back and saving Kana when he finally gets out of there. I don't know. I just feel like they set everything up so well, and it's just so exhilarating. And I was really surprised to find that other people just found it to be like an unnecessary amount of violence. Like the whole entire film is just talking about consumption. It's talking about thinking about what we consume and what we eat. And of course there's like a literal element to that, like with food, but also
Mhm.
just thinking about bodies in general you know and so when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch a horror film. I'm going to watch these frat boys get dismembered or whatever. And by the end of it, you're just like, get out of there, run those women over. They start off the film and they're like, yeah, we're going to ogle these girls or whatever. We're going to like see these hookers. And like he's that woman says at the end of the film, it's like, okay, well, you're my bitch now.
Yeah.
Like, you thought you were gonna make me the bitch, and you're the bitch now. I don't know. But yeah.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I mean, you had mentioned sort of like how Roth had cultivated the story idea behind this and what he was doing on the dark web looking for murder vacations. I don't want to know, but the the marketing for the film sort of advertises as like based on a true story or
right.
inspired by true events, which is not really the case. But when you're marketing a film and it's like you can sort of tangentially say something like that, it's like no one's going to ask too many questions, at least like when the movie gets released. Afterwards, you may have to deal with some press questions about whether or not this is actually a true story and how you know this true story. But until then, just enjoy the success of the film. And you had mentioned you had seen Cabin Fever. Are you generally familiar with Eli Roth's work, or did it end at Hostel?
I might watch some more of it, but yeah, those are the only two I've seen. I actually didn't know that they remade that movie again. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
involved with that.
Yeah, it's
um,
like how you gonna remake a movie from 2003 and 2016? Like, give it some room to breathe. Like the first one was
yeah,
fine. You
that is
didn't need
so
to remake this.
bizarre. And I know he was the bear Jew, and
He was, yeah.
and he's very much like friends with Quentin. I think I listened to this one. I don't know if it was his podcast or it was something I just randomly found on Spotify where they were just talking about like all these old slashers for hours. And I could tell he loves the genre so much, and he has like a lot of expertise. And I respect that. And I don't know, like Cabin Fever didn't work for me, just like
Okay.
tonally. It had this like like this Twin Peaks score, but then it would have this like really weird kind of like elementary humor, and then it would have this like really like horrific moment, and I don't know, it just felt like he was constantly undercutting like the serious moments in that film. And I guess there are comedic moments in Hostel, but I don't know, they're not as goofy, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I haven't
that's
seen
fair.
any of his other films.
I mean, he did do Hostel 2, and the ones that I've seen that sort of echo some of the same things that you would expect after watching Hostel is Green Inferno and Knock Knock.
Mhm.
So if you enjoy Eli Roth, I would recommend probably checking those ones
Oh,
out.
you know what I did watch by him?
Hmm.
I kind of enjoyed it. I can't really remember much about it. Was it like the Death Wish remake? Is that what it's
Oh,
called?
yeah, I see that
Death.
he did that, but I didn't actually see that, nor did I see The House with a Clock in its Walls.
Yeah.
Or,
Um,
or Finn, which I don't know if this is about a shark or a dolphin, but no, it's about a shark.
yeah.
It's a documentary, so I'll
I don't,
have
I
to
actually
give that a
don't
chance.
really like, I've heard like mixed things as far as like his respect for like in the horror community. Like, do people like him? Do people like his films?
That's a good question. And part of the conversation that was going on in the group chat was sort of centered around not just, I wouldn't say his motivations for the film, but sort of his intent with the film. And, I was just joking at the time that I chimed in because I was like, I'm literally about to sit down and watch this movie. And y'all are having like an active conversation that is very much going to shape the way that I see this movie. So I probably shouldn't have interjected myself at that time, but I said, is it possible that Eli Roth is just a bro who like believes that he made a cool horror movie? And at the time, like that's sort of the way that it came across, like at least to the best
Right.
of my recollection. But I guess for the audience and for maybe people who haven't seen Hostel, if you could summarize like an argument for why people would say it's a bad movie, how would you put that?
And I've written like reviews on it, and it's so hard for me to articulate my thoughts sometimes. I feel like it's secretly kind of feminist, you know? Honestly it is, because it's like you're going in and you're just like, these guys are total assholes. They don't respect women. And then this happens to them, and it kind of is like I think they even say this in the commentary. So in the beginning, when they're going to this weird like cosmic brothel, and it's just like extremely like sexualized. And then they go to Prague, and they go to the hostel, and then one by one they get picked apart. They get picked on by these people who are trying to sell them to these people who are participating in this elite hunting organization that apparently, I don't know if you could tell this, they say this in the commentary. So like the people who run it, they have like connections to like the Russian mob and the Yakuza. So in a way, we probably could have picked this movie for this mom as a kind of a mob movie. And
Backdoor your way
so
into Mafia Month.
right. And it just kind of like it's like a weird mirror of what was happening in the beginning, except it's happening to them now. And it kind of makes you think like, oh, like are, you know, is this way of consuming bodies and consuming people, is this akin to, the exploitation that's happening to these guys at um this elite hunting organization?
Well, I mean, I guess the best way that I could kind of summarize it would be that you can at least, I would have to hazard a guess that it's probably easy to dismiss this film as, that's where the coining of the term torture porn came from, is that this is a movie that is sort of like in love with its own violence.
Yeah.
And so I think like there's probably a way to go about watching this and you see it, and it's, I mean, look, I shouldn't have watched this at like 10:30 last night. Definitely not. But when I saw that it was an hour and a half, I was like, oh, I need to remember to thank Jamila for picking a movie that, didn't require 3 hours late at night.
Right.
But after the movie was over, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch funny reels on Instagram because I need a palate cleanser before I go to sleep. And so I think it's so visually disturbing in some moments. And when that is off-putting in a way that makes something inaccessible, I think it's pretty easy to dismiss beyond that point, because you're not operating from a point of like, oh, what commentary is this film trying to make, or like
Right.
what is the intent of the director and the writing and the character design. It's just this is gross and exploitative, and I'm basically closed off at that point.
Right. But see, I took that like I was going in, I was like, I'm just gonna like watch this dumb crap while I'm folding laundry. I didn't expect there to be any depth to it. And I found that I took so much depth from it. Like I feel like it's weird that people say like it's unnecessary violence, because I feel like it makes you question your appetite for violence by the end of the film. You're just like, oh my God, you need to run them over. You need to, yes, I'm okay with you dunking his head in the toilet and doing that because like he caused all this stuff to happen. And it makes you question your appetite for violence, but it also kind of fulfills it. But I don't think it's something that's like unnecessary. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like, oh, watch this, look at this happen. I mean, I feel like it's kind of tame for today. So I kind of agree with you. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like reappraising it now.
And I should ask you as well. I mean, when was the first time you saw this movie?
I saw it last year. I saw it for the first time last year.
Okay, first time last year. So approaching it, like, were you already aware of sort of like the reputation of what the film was? Or?
No,
Okay.
I thought it was, well, at first, I can't even remember what podcast this is. I don't even think I listen to them anymore, but I can't even remember. And they were like, this is a good movie. This is better than Fresh. I was like, okay, that sounds great. And then I started watching. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, but maybe I'll just like it. Like how you'll put on like a dumb horror film that's and you're just like, I'm just going to enjoy watching these people die. So that's what I thought I would take away from it. I was like, this is short. It just popped up on Netflix. I guess I'm just going to enjoy watching them die and see some cool shots of Europe, and I got one of those things, and yeah, I wasn't enjoying watching them die. It was like, wow, this is crazy. This is insane. What is this trying to tell me? I didn't I guess instantly think, oh, like this is commenting on, capitalistic greed and like, I don't know, sexuality. Cause, I feel like, I don't know if you also sense this, that the Josh character, you never knew like why he was so like reticent. And, there was that kind of scene where he kind of puts his hands on the German guy in the bar. Yeah. And he just kind of is this like a repressed homosexuality sort of thing? Like, I feel like it has all this like subtext to it.
For you, it's a slightly different experience because you're watching it, almost 20 years down the line, and
right.
going into it, sort of cold, and not in a way that is negative, but just in a way that doesn't have a lot of the baggage attached to it. And so for me, this was sort of like at the start of a lot of other movies that sort of began to behave in a similar way to this. And Hostel was like the tipping point for more films getting made that would probably fall into like the, torture porn subgenre. But so coming back to it now and sort of having my previous experience with it, and then trying to wrap my head around what this is like, given the conversations that's like happening in front of my face in our group chat, definitely a different experience for me. But I'm glad I went back and watched it, because I think there are takeaways from it. And We'll take a look at the trailer and see kind of like what they marketed this as back in 2005.
Okay, cool. I think I was listening to the commentary and I was taking notes. And I want to say he was, I don't know, he was one of the crew members. He probably was like an AD or something. And I don't know, I wouldn't describe this movie as a buddy movie, but he does. He says, like, buddy movies. He says this buddy movies are exercises in latent homosexual yearnings. And I'm just like, it's like an interesting take. And I never thought of buddy movies that way. But I feel like, and then they're constantly using like these slurs, they're constantly like, you're gay, you're this, you're that, and it's kind of like, is this character gay? Is that's what's happening? And then the one person who was actually kind of decent to him, but also was kind of like a creep because he did, touch him without his consent. Ends up being the person who tortures him and kills him. And it's just like, what does this mean? This has to have some meaning to it,
Yeah, there's definitely some points to be raised about overcompensating, right? So let me grab my screen share, put that up. Okay, you see that okay?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, let's take a look. Before we get to the trailer, it's time for a quick word from our sponsor. Battery technology has come a long way over the years. Fully electric cars aren't just something out of a sci-fi film anymore, and there are even batteries that can power your entire home. But as the technology has continued to improve, the question about what to do with your discarded batteries remains. Well, thanks to a partnership nobody saw coming, those worries may be a thing of the past. Introducing Energito flavored batteries. Other battery manufacturers decided to add a bitter taste to their batteries to discourage kids from swallowing them. But at Energito, they've got the flavor you want to savor. They have 3 signature flavors you can try today: Nacho Energies, Super Sour Power, and Alpine Alkaline. From now on, rather than throwing those used batteries in the trash, you can just put them down the hatch. So the next time you need power on demand, reach for the batteries that provide both flavor and power that keeps going and going. Reach for Energito premium flavored batteries. Energito! And now, back to the show. It's a Green Band trailer, at least, so it's not super violent. Loud, though. Okay, so it's dirty, it's dark. Dungeony, talking about sickest fantasies.
I love that cut where it
Yeah.
cuts to them cutting her toe and then it's the girl painting her nails.
Yeah.
It's that guy from Entourage.
See? Inspired by true events.
I mean, isn't Fargo say the same thing?
Yeah, this is almost like an ad for the fantasy aspect of it. So much of it is talking about where you can fulfill your deepest fantasies and all that stuff. Like,
I
so
didn't
much
even
of the
notice
trailer,
the words.
Yeah, well, there's no dialogue in the trailer at all.
I was just like, this kind of sucks, this trailer.
Yeah, it's so weird. The trailer is almost like an advertisement you would see for this particular service, where it's like,
okay, so that's why they were like,
Mhm.
this is just torture porn.
Yeah, so interesting that like you don't get any of the friend dynamics in any of that. You don't get any of the like I guess Euro trip or like road trip vacation vibes. And one of the movies I covered most recently on the show was American Werewolf in Paris, and that's centers around a group of 3 friends.
That's a dope movie.
They're all very, very bro-y.
Mhm.
and like their behavior too is like, let's score, and we're
Mhm.
gonna like, oh, you get points if you like jump off this building, and you get extra points if you get laid, and like kind of just like low brow kind of stuff like that. And so I could sort of see some of the fundamentals of that type of storytelling here in Hostel, and you get this group of friends that they they are very broy, and
Mhm.
they it's very much over the top though as well, where
Right.
I think in 2005 you're walking a thin line between like asking the question of like, is Eli Roth writing and designing these characters to be these offensive American stereotypes,
Mhm.
or is he a bro who is writing this to suggest that this is like cool bro behavior
Yeah.
reflective of 2005? And I think it can be
A
probably a
little bit of
little.
both.
Exactly. I think it can be a little bit of both of those things, because like there is an excessive use of anti-gay
Mhm.
slurs and language,
Right.
like, and one of the most like kind of like throwaway moments, or a couple of them, is one, I think they check into one of the rooms and it's like, oh, you're gonna have roommates, and the guy flippantly goes like, roommates, that's
Right.
gay. It's like, why
Which
is
is
having
just like,
roommates gay?
aren't you guys roommates? Aren't you guys going on this trip together?
Exactly.
But
So it's
that's why
like
I'm like, I think it's intentional. Before I saw like all the commentary and stuff, I would have been like, I don't know about, this guy, and like his kind of persona, I think, is kind of like he's the broy like horror director who's also like a nerd because he knows all
Mhm.
this stuff about slashers, but he's still kind of broy. But yeah, that was his intention. It was like these characters have to be kind of despicable. So like it makes you question the violence. It's not a movie about indulging violence. It's a movie about making you question it, and even in question like enjoying it. When he's finally dishing it out to the
Mhm.
actual villains. It's one thing to go into a movie, and then I feel like, yeah, like it has so much commentary about like I think the whole thing of calling it like a true story, and him hearing like these kind of like urban legends of like, oh, this is really happening in Romania or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes you question, like, is this something that could really happen? Are there corporations that would actually enable this? So you go in and you're thinking of things from an individual level, like these guys are just like frat boys, they're just like banes of our existence. But by the end of it, you're like, wait, but like they're just infinitesimal. There's a whole corporation that's exploiting people. And like, for all we know, this could really exist. Or it's a great metaphor for just how people are exploited in general in this country and throughout the
Yeah.
world.
By taking the time also to sort of explain that like the cost of the Americans like in the torture business is
Hmm.
higher, it,
Right.
it it puts an emphasis and an understanding on sort of, global relationships with America during 2005. I mean, this is post 9/11. This is sort of spiraling out of the war,
Right.
and also the torture of Abu Ghraib,
Hmm.
that I believe kind of that came to light in 2003. So like we're seeing American behavior on a global level, and
Hmm.
then in the process, like, oh, like America's been torturing people all these years and sort of just hiding it and pretending like that's not a practice that we
Hmm.
engage in. And so this is sort of like a reaction to that stuff coming to light in the media, and it sort of represents the fear of like, if you are an American traveling abroad, like how much do you have to worry about? Like, how much does the rest of the world hate us?
Right.
And I think these characters are specifically stereotyped in a way to represent America, right? This
Right. Yeah.
what is the character's name? Paxton, I think, is. the
Yeah,
main
his name is
character?
Paxton. I mean,
Weird,
it's
weird
weird. He's
choice.
like, yeah, and it's weird. I don't think, I'm not sure that he was what they initially envisioned, but I think it just makes it even more interesting that he is, he's Latino, but he's American. And like,
Mhm.
even when he comes there, he's like, when they get him in the chair, or whatever, and they're like, speak, like, are you American? And he's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not American.
Yeah, he's like, look at me, I'm
And
not
like,
American.
it's like, oh, so like this one moment, I'm now like, yeah, I don't want to be perceived as American. And yeah, you kind of go in. I mean, obviously, he sets out, making it seem like this all American guy is the protagonist, and he's like, quote unquote, like more virtuous than the other guys or whatever. But he's not the one who ends up surviving. The one who ends up surviving is this other guy. Yeah, I don't really know what he's trying to say with that, but yeah, I think it's interesting. I think he's a really great actor.
Jay,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
he's what, on Hawaii 5 right now, or one of those other
I
uh
think he's the
procedural police
Lincoln
shows.
lawyer, isn't
He's the
he?
Lincoln lawyer. Surprise, surprise. Go get it, Jay
Right.
Hernandez. But yeah, his character design, like, he's wearing the t-shirt with the off-color long sleeve shirt underneath, like the way one of his first lines in the film, I think, is like, we can't rail a girl that's in a freaking coma.
Right.
The way he sort of projects certain things onto his friend, like, oh, you're
Hmm.
not cool enough unless you do X, Y, and Z, like, you're too shy and you're not getting laid while we're out here on vacation, and so
Hmm.
that's a negative mark against you. But then as soon as they interact with somebody that's like not in their circle, they all zip up that bro behavior like fairly quick and
Hmm.
start speaking in like a different cadence, a lot more respectful. And so that tells me that the design of these characters being this sort of abrasive American stereotype is very much intentional. And I'm like, in the early part of the film, maybe like 10-15 minutes in, I'm like, okay, these guys are not necessarily likable guys, but
Hmm.
I could see that if I was like 22, I'd be
Right.
like,
Right.
oh yeah, these guys are just being like regular dudes out on vacation and doing the same dumb shit that a lot of guys their age do at that time. And I felt like I would probably be significantly less in tune with that particular thing if I was a younger man at this point in my life. So
Hmm.
probably watching it when it was new in 2005 or seeing it in 2006, I was maybe, what was I, 21, 22? So I saw it
Hmm.
as like, oh, these guys are on vacation. They're doing the things that probably a lot of young men in their college years would want to do, which is backpack across Europe, meet a lot
Right.
of girls, go to Amsterdam and do a bunch of drugs. Like, they're sort of living a very curated version of an American experience. And
Right.
I know that Eli Roth is very much in tune with that element of the telling of this story, because it's that it's sort of that pulling of the tablecloth out from that
Right.
really sets this thing off as this like
Hmm.
horrible, horrible event that all these people are part of. And there's been I don't know if it's a trend like that I've seen in only a couple of films, but one of them is called Dash Cam,
Uh-huh.
and it is
I think
by
I started watching that.
Rob
Oh my God. And
Savage.
this woman was just like awful. Like I couldn't even finish it because she was just like
Correct.
saying all these ridiculous things.
Yeah, so okay, so Dashcam is a film where the director Rob Savage, he recently directed Boogeyman, which was very good, like, entry point for him to do like a full budgeted feature. I had fun with
Okay.
that. But before that, he did Host during the pandemic, and Host was just like all shot on Zoom basically. So just ingenuity, practical storytelling effects, and using like an interface that everybody was common with, and that's
Right.
sort of like what
Hmm.
launched him. But in between that, Dashcam came out, I want to say last year or the year before, and yes, the main character is insanely abrasive. And what that movie is really asking you, though, is, do you want to see this person get hurt
Right.
because you disagree with them or because they're abrasive? And like, where does that line get drawn?
Right.
Because they spend a lot of time establishing that this character in Dashcam, she shows up at her friend's house, I think unannounced during COVID, slaps him in the face while he's sleeping, steals his car, and then is like, oh, hey, I need your help. Like, as my friend, I'm like, well, you're a terrible friend. Meanwhile, she's like spouting her like ridiculous, political beliefs to her YouTube following while she's driving around the neighborhood, I think in London, where it is. And then she gets into trouble and needs help. And so you're starting to like chip away at the sort of like the outer facade of this abrasive personality. And you're really asking the audience to either come around and be like, this isn't just because this person is this way and I don't agree with sort of their ideologies, that doesn't mean I want this person to be hurt in this case. And so connecting that all the way back, it's like you see Hostel was doing something very similar, 15 years prior,
Right.
and sort of asking you to address the stereotypes of these characters and ask the audience, like, are these things enough for you to cheer for somebody to die?
To die. Yeah.
Because Eli Roth is a guy who, as you said, is very well versed in slashers, classic horror, and a lot of those movies are built with large casts that have throwaway characters that like they're going to be annoying, and you kind of want them to die because you're watching the horror movie in part because you want to see the person get killed. But there's always like a final girl or final guy. There's always somebody that typically survives in the end in a slasher. But there's so many throwaway characters that are like far less abrasive than the characters that we see in Hostel, because they're only in the movie for a short period of time. These aren't people that you spend any significant amount of time with. And you had mentioned something about consumption and how like this is sort of a story about our relationship to consumption. And this older German man gets on the train with them, and like this is right after too.
Yeah.
Ollie has his pants down and they're taking pictures of him with like his ass cheeks in the other guy's face. And I'm like, yes, this is very much bro behavior. Like if you are unaware of it, you never wanted to be the first person to fall asleep around a group of guys that are like in their, formative years, because if you're the first one to fall asleep, you're getting something drawn on your face, you're getting something shoved somewhere that you don't want. Like that's just not it's not good. So when I see this happening on the train, this guy's asleep and he's got ass cheeks in his face, I'm like, this tracks for me. Like I understand this stereotype that is being portrayed here. Then the older German guy gets into the car with them and they all sort of like tone it down and they speak like normal people. They're not really invested in that, hey, like the show of machismo for the sake of one another, I guess. And there comes a point in that conversation where Jay Hernandez character stops and like it's like, no, I'm vegetarian. And so I wanted to ask you, because it was such a weird moment for me. I'm like, is the vegetarian thing supposed to make me be like, oh, I have sympathy for him now because he's a vegetarian?
Right. No, I actually, when I did my review of this on Letterboxd, I was thinking of that, and I just feel like it's just like another commentary. He's, like if you were to say, like, I feel like, when they talk about food in this section, you're kind of supposed to see food as like a stand-in just for bodies in general. When he's talking about, when the German man is talking, because he knows what's going on, he wants to meet his food because he knows he's going to torture him later. He wants to see this person whose life is going to be in his hands. So him being a vegetarian is kind of supposed to be ironic, I guess, because he doesn't seem to, value the things that he consumes, in the same way. Like he's going on this trip and he's just like, yeah, we're going to have fun. And then we're going to go back to our real lives, the real world. I'm going to go to law school and you're going to write your thesis. And I when I rewatched that this time, I kind of thought that was kind of like a interesting parallel to what the German guy says later when he's like, I always wanted to be a surgeon, but they wouldn't let me. So I went to do business, which is boring. But being a surgeon is so much more cool. And I was like, oh, okay. So like they're like, we're gonna have all this like hedonistic indulgence, and like we're not gonna like have like actual connections with these women, and then we're gonna go back to our real lives. And like once we get this out, and this man, he's gonna have this, torture session with Josh, and then he's gonna go back to his little 6-year-old daughter and pretend like, you know like nothing really happened or whatever. But he has this weird rationalization like, oh no, I had this conversation with him, whatever. I actually value this person. I don't know. Am I making any sense? I feel like I'm all over the
No,
place.
no, I think you do make sense. And that's why I was asking sort of about that comment about vegetarianism, because I read it as like ironic because
Yeah.
you'd established all these characters as being basically douchebags. And, 10 seconds before he says that line, he's like celebrating having his buddy's ass cheeks in his other friend's face and laughing about it, like it's the funniest thing on earth. And then when it's like, oh, this guy's eating meat, well, I'm above that. I'm a vegetarian. And it's like, yeah, that's a very ironic statement coming from you, bro. So I was just sort of looking at that scene in the film as kind of like this turning point for all of them, because they're faced with a guy that ends up being, very central to the torture element, but it also like strips them out of that bravado for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And so to like talk down to a stranger in that way, it's like it'd be one thing to be like, he's joking about the fork, but then to sort of be dismissive and to place himself above this person.
But did you assume that it was like a judgment? Because that's all he said. He didn't say like, I'm vegetarian, so
It's
I'm better
it's
than
the way that
you.
it's the way that he looked at him. He looked at him with like
Well, I think he was
disgust.
just disgusted that he was using his hands, which is
Well,
another
yeah,
thing.
so that's my question, is like, is he disgusted in the fact that like he's eating meat and he's using this moment as sort of like a moral judgment of this man, or is he just like, this dude's nasty and he's eating with his fingers and slurping down this like chicken and turkey right in front of my face?
Well, I think that's the thing about the movie, is that you can interpret it either way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But this old man, I mean, he obviously becomes like a much more central figure, and they run into him again shortly afterwards at the bar, and he is talking to Josh, and he's telling him this thing about sort of like sowing his wild oats and like having to make his own life choices. And
Right.
this is after he sort of touched Josh on the train, and Josh freaked out. And, maybe, as we had mentioned earlier, there's some like latent homosexuality there that he is really like freaking out about more than he would let on to his friends. So he overreacts. And in this second interaction with the older German man, and they're speaking at the bar, the old man also tells him, I chose the life that I did because like it gave me my daughter. And
Hmm.
the way that I read that at first was that like, because of what happened on the train and him sitting down and talking to Josh here, is that this like older man chose to live a life with a woman so that he could have kids. And so I was like, okay,
Right.
maybe he is like gay and he's not open about it. But then as the film goes on and we sort of see like what he's really into, I'm like, okay, is he just like really a serial killer that like chose to have this life as a wall of protection against him,
Yeah.
and then he gets this
Well, he
out?
basically tells him that. He's like, I
Hmm.
wish I could be a surgeon. And I feel
Yeah.
like we know a lot of surgeons. No, I'm not saying a lot, but there's definitely some surgeons who go into that profession so that they can maim people.
Oh my god, if you've never
Like,
heard the podcast Dr. Death, like, oh, it's
yeah.
brutal.
So he's like, yeah, like, I wish I could have been a surgeon, but I guess they wouldn't let me. So I became a businessman. But it's great that I get to do this thing, and and now I get to live that dream of being a surgeon.
Yeah, and he obviously like enjoys the torture element of it
Hmm.
quite a bit. So it's like he doesn't want to be a surgeon in the name of bettering people's lives or helping people. He just enjoys the cutting part of it.
Right.
And so in that that moment of confession for him, I realized that, like, yeah, this is a guy who realistically is a serial killer, and he's able to sort of satisfy that particular part of his life by having it be done in this very controlled fashion where he pays for it and then it's all like set up and cleaned up for him, and then he just goes back to his regular life until it's time again for him to, you know, flex that serial killing muscle that he just can't get over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like again, it could be read either way because, it does seem like he's trying to make a move on Josh when he puts
Mhm.
his hand on his leg. Um I don't know, but I do think we're also supposed to assume like he is a serial killer like you said, or he's somebody with just violent tendencies, and he gets to fulfill them by doing this.
Yeah, and those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive either. Like he
Yeah.
could he could be like, "Hey, you know, I'm closeted gay and I've married a woman so that I could have my kid and have my like private
Right.
life, and then I'm also a serial killer that likes to
Which
get away
is
with it." So,
also not the greatest, there's already that stigma in a lot of horror films, but
exactly. And in real life, if you look at John Wayne
yeah.
Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer, like
Right.
that correlation is already in place before the time that this movie comes out. And it's been
Right.
established, 20 years before this movie, actually. So,
Right.
like I said, they could both be true, and it's possible that they likely are both true. But
Mhm.
you had also mentioned earlier in our conversation about the story that Paxton is telling John at the time about
I think
the
his name was Josh.
Josh, sorry.
It's fine.
They're walking down the alley, and he just sort of breaks into this story about seeing the girl drown. And I'm asking myself at the moment, I'm like, is this a story that is meant to make Paxton a more sympathetic character?
I think
Because
so. Yeah.
yeah, I think at that point in the film, he's like the most broy of the three of them. Like Ollie is just like, "Hey, I'm partying. I'm gonna go have
Right.
like a good
It's
time
weird.
with the
He's kind of
girls."
comic relief, but he did
Hmm.
bring in that girl who was like clearly high, and I guess he had some intent with her, and even Paxton is like, yeah, we can't do
Yeah.
anything with that girl. But they kind of treat him as like this weird comic relief character who you don't even like, he just like disappears in the beginning. But yeah, I agree with you. I think even Quentin and Eli were saying that they felt like this scene was really good because it existed for that, but I also feel like it existed as like a reason for why he would have gone back after he got out of there,
Hmm.
um, why he would have gone back to save that woman when he heard her screaming.
Yeah,
Because
because
he knew that he would be haunted forever if he didn't try. And then it turns out to be a complete waste because when she sees her reflection, she kills herself.
yeah, so that's an unfortunate
Yeah.
series of events there. But yeah, when you drew that parallel of like it explains his motivation for going back. And I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that. But like in that particular scene where they're in the alley and he's telling that story, um, Josh says to him at the end of the story, like, why did you just think of that right now? And then they're interrupted by something. So
Right.
it cuts. I was like, this is too intentional for it to be something that's just a flippant sort of anecdotal story. I mean, he's thinking
Right.
about these things for a reason, but he doesn't actually tell us why he's thinking about it. And then the story just kind of like keeps on going from
Hmm.
that point. And I mean, we're only, I think, 40 minutes into the film. Then they're looking for Ollie because he had disappeared on them at that point.
Uh-huh.
But that's still really, I mean, in this movie, it's pretty deep in, but at 40 minutes, this is the first moment I think of actual.
Like
It's
vulnerability.
first vulnerability, but also I think we see Ollie's head like on the table. So it's like
Right.
the first instance of the actual cost of like where they're at.
Right.
And there hasn't been any, I don't think, like actual on-screen violence yet, but
Right.
you see a human head that's been severed, and so like the implication is obviously that like he's died, he's been beheaded at this point.
Which, like, I feel like they shouldn't have done that because I felt
Yeah.
like not knowing exactly what happened to him makes it even scarier. Because, like, could you imagine? I mean, this is basically, I mean, I knew it was a horror film, but could you imagine going in and thinking it was just going to be like some Euro trip film and then,
Right.
and then you find out like you're going into the situation like these characters? And in a way, you kind of do because you're expecting Josh to be the one to survive and
Yeah.
all these other crappier guys, but it's the other way around. So I think it does subvert your expectations in that way, like I said before.
Yeah,
Um,
even if they had pushed the reveal of Ollie being dead until the point that they arrive at the dungeon,
uh
then I think that's maybe a slightly better time for it. But I view it as, we're fairly deep into the movie at that point, and there has been no violence. So if you're in it for a horror movie, like
hmm
they just wanted to sort of show you that, oh yeah, this guy is dead and he died in a very graphic fashion. So
right,
so buckle up because it's not going to get any easier from here.
right. I don't know. I wouldn't have done that because I when I rewatched it, I totally forgot. I think probably because I was folding laundry. I totally forgot that you saw a shot of his head. Or I wonder
Yeah.
if maybe Netflix had like some sort of edited version of it. Because yeah, I don't remember that.
Oh,
Um, and I feel like not knowing exactly what happened to him would have been even scarier. And then, when you actually see what happens to Josh, you can kind of put two and two together. Like, oh, okay, he is definitely dead and he's next. And the only reason he didn't die instantly is because he got trapped in like that custodial closet
mhm.
Paxton.
Yeah, I had forgotten that the way that he sort of figures out what's happening is, they check him back into the room and he goes in there and there's two new girls doing the same
Uh-huh.
thing. Oh, we're going to the sauna. Come join us. And he has that flash of deja vu where it's like, no, we just went through this. This just
Right,
happened to us. So something's definitely off here.
right,
And that sort of sets him out on his path of discovery. And then by the time that he gets down to the actual like torture chambers, he is sort of seeing everything piece by piece, and one of those things is his friend laid out. So it's like you could have had him
right,
stumble across Ollie's head in the process of doing all that and just sort of bury that until a little bit later. But I
right.
mean, it's 40, I think it was like 45-minute mark where
Mhm.
Josh is in the chair. So you're halfway through the movie at that point, and now we're about to see sort of the like hit the ground running with the torture.
Right.
And that scene was still horrible. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
the Achilles scene like is so
Mhm.
gnarly, and I could totally see you're 45 minutes into this movie, you're watching like, hey, broy Euro trip, there's boobs everywhere, drugs, like Czechoslovakian disco music playing. Like these guys are having a good time, whether or not you as the audience are really like having that good time with them. You can
Right,
easily observe that they're having the kind of time that they want to have. And then all of a sudden, you're knee deep in really, really, really graphic, well
right.
done uh, torture. And
Mhm.
the practical effects are so good in this
They're
movie.
so good,
I
yeah.
forgot how good they were. And that's why I had to spend like an hour just watching like cat videos after
Oh,
this was over, because I was like, I need to laugh at something because I can't go to bed with this being the last thing in my
oh,
head.
I'm
It's so
so
visceral.
desensitized. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go eat dinner now.
Well, the crazy thing is like I've sat down and like I've been curious and I'm like, oh, there's like open heart surgery video. So it's like I'm watching an actual human being operated
Mhm.
on, and that's not bothering me at all. But I've gained a newfound appreciation, or I've sort of revitalized my appreciation for practical effects because
Right,
of sort of the advent of 4K technology, where you look at something where the digital effects or the CGI was really good at the time of like 2005 or 2006, and then you see it 10 years later and it's like, wow, the CGI did not age well at all.
right,
And
right, right.
it was such a jarring moment when I watched Transformers, like I think it was on FX. So I saw Transformers in
The
theaters. I was like,
first
yeah,
one?
yeah, I was like, the visual effects are fine. They look good. It's what you would expect of a Transformers movie. And then like 6, 7 years down the line, it hits FX and it's just on one day. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll put it on. And I'm like, wow, the visual effects look terrible. So it's the investment of doing things the old-fashioned way that still holds up, because I think even the scene where he gets his hand chainsawed, like they really chainsawed something there. It wasn't an actual human hand, but they sawed through something. And there's only one VFX digital shot that I spotted in the whole movie.
It was when she flew him from the train.
Exactly, because they can't.
Did you know when they're on the train, like that was like a green screen, like
in the background,
the landscape? Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about doing some trivia?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right.
Time for trivia.
Trivia time. Okay, so question number 1. Writer-director Eli Roth has a brief cameo in this movie as one of the bar patrons in Amsterdam as he laughs at his friend who's choking on bong smoke. What other famous directors have cameos in this film? There's 2 of them.
Oh, well, I know Quentin is the guy who they when they're at their first hostel in Amsterdam, he was like, there's a, what does he say? There's a he won't let them in because it's too late. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but that was Quentin Tarantino.
Shirtless German.
And oh yes, I know the other one. I'm sorry. It's Takashi Miike.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, wait, who is it? Yeah.
Ding ding.
He's the guy. He's the guy who's like, oh yeah, like go in there, but be careful or whatever. Which I feel like is the whole reason he even goes in there. Like honestly, like the whole entire thing just kind of mirrors, like oh, if you're going somewhere shady and you're a woman, you need another woman to be like, is this good? Are we okay? So he needed another man to be like, yeah, it's okay, go in there, but be careful.
Yeah, and he warns him. He's like, you could spend all your money in there. And then with the benefit of hindsight and having seen this film before, I'm like, oh, he just got done with like a night of tons of murdering and torturing. And he's really had such a good time that he's warning this new guy like, oh, you might go broke buying a bunch of people to murder and kill and torture in there. So yeah, I think at that point in the movie, too, by the time we run into Miike in that scene, he still hasn't been down to the torture chamber. So it's like we know there's something shady going on somewhere in the background. But I don't think at that point they've established the sort of like for-profit torture business aspect of it. So
no, they don't do it until you find out with him, until you find out with, what's that actor's name? The guy from Entourage. And he kind of basically explains it to him because he's such a bad man.
Yeah, the Rick Hoffman, the American client. Yeah, his portrayal of that character reminded me a lot of like a super coked out Bob Morton from RoboCop.
Right. I don't know. In the special features, he was like, I thought this was a comedy. I think he was joking, but I was just like, yeah, you kind of played it like it was a comedy, and it worked. You know,
his scene is definitely where the movie finds some comedic plateau to like rest on for a minute before it gets back into the rest of it. Question number 2. Hostel took over the number 1 spot at the box office when it released on January 6th of 2006 with about a $20 million opening weekend. Which late 2005 release did it replace?
In January
of 2006. So it was taking down or is taking over the top spot from a film that was released sort of for Christmas season the year before.
Oh, I don't know. Christmas with the Cranks. I really don't know.
It was The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and
the Wardrobe. I was going to guess that.
And I guess the comparison came because Narnia, I guess, was like a $200 million movie where Hostel was like what, $4 or $5 million and grossed 20 on its opening weekend. So to be able to be that kind of film and take down a huge franchise film with a big budget and a big release and a wide berth and it was dominating all the way through December from its release, I think at the beginning of December. So it was an interesting, and like, yet it still has this
terrible reputation. I'm like, what? This is the highest grossing movie, and like people are like, it's torture porn, it's gross.
Yeah, I mean, some people just don't have the stomach for horror in general, and I know like Roger Ebert notoriously hated horror films as
Hmm.
a whole. So it's like if you can't get past like a certain element of it, I can see that you're not going to get to the other side. You're not going to get to the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, because
Hmm.
you're just like, nah, this tunnel's dark and creepy and I'm not going in there. No way.
Right. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of like violence, you can interpret it as being unnecessary, but it kind of has, this similar like we're seeing a lot of like commentary about sex in film,
Mhm.
like I feel like most of the time it serves a purpose. It's not just
Yeah.
something that's completely necessary and it's meant to, like it's not meant to be enjoyed just because it's violent or because it's sexual.
Yeah, I agree. There's like as I've watched one of the watch parties we did for the film club at the very beginning, it was me, Donald, and Cosmo, and we were watching Friday the 13th part 4, I think. And that's a movie where it's like it's kind of dumb and not overly serious, and some of the reason that you're watching is to see the creativity that goes into the practical effects work
Right.
for the killing. So like the intent of the not just the presentation and the design of the kills is very different than like something with Hostel. And I think in Hostel, violence, at least in this case, is at least partially the point. And with a movie like that Friday the 13th movie, it's like, oh, this was such a great use of practical effects.
Right.
Like, how did
Mhm.
they do this scene where this guy's got a saw through his neck? In Hostel, you're not meant to sort of break that down and try and diagnose how this was done. You're meant to react to it viscerally, and
Uh-huh.
it's meant to be disturbing. And I think it accomplishes that because, I mean, I just watched Martyrs not that long ago either, and Hostel still
Uh-huh.
has some very, very graphic scenes to me that I was like, oh yeah, this is gross. Like, it's just gross. It's hard to watch.
Right. Like the scene where they cut her eyeball. That was a
Yeah.
bit like, I imagine that's what an eyeball would look like after somebody took a chainsaw to it, but it was just like, yeah, this is definitely not real.
Yeah. Right. I know it's very much not real, but like it's not. I guess it's not the design of the prosthetic as much as it is Jay Hernandez reacting to it in that scene, because she's like moving around and he's like, oh no, I have the scissors and I have to cut it, but he's very apprehensive about like when he
Right.
goes in for the cut. And so
Mhm.
it's that moment where I can imagine filming that was probably fun because it's like such a weird thing to do, but to then roll action on that and to like have to be disgusted but also have to accomplish this thing in order to get her out of there. It's a very like functionally gross scene, and it works well.
Right.
All right, question number 3.
Mhm.
How many languages were spoken throughout the film in total?
Um, well, I'm guessing Dutch. Um, and I'm pretty sure they spoke German. They spoke Czech. Um, they spoke English, of course. Uh, so is that it?
Well, you got 4 of them, but there was actually 9 in total. So as you had mentioned,
Yo.
English, German, Dutch, Czech, but also Spanish, Japanese, Slavic,
Well,
uh,
Japanese, yeah.
Icelandic, and Russian.
Right. And Russian, because he sings that song in Russian to her.
Hmm.
Okay.
And he keeps talking about the sniper in his
Yeah.
Icelandic. And I read something like that. It was pronounced, or it was written incorrectly in the subtitles so that it wouldn't get confused with the American word for sniper. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess it's just written differently, and it was put in the subtitles phonetically along with some
Oh,
other
okay. I didn't know
mistakes in
that.
the subtitles. Yeah, just a
But I thought it was
tiny.
interesting, like, so like sniper is basically like pussy. But like they call it
Yeah.
clit. um,
Right. That's what I thought too, because as he was talking about it, sort of the way that the implication of the word is they're talking about, yes, pussy. But when he stops and like actually explains it, like he has to like tell him like, oh no, it's clitoris. So
right.
it's like,
Which like why would you use that word?
right.
Because
Even
it's like they're because they're like, are Europeans more concerned with the clit? Is that what it is?
Maybe, but yeah, because if you're trying to establish these guys as like broy, it makes sense for them to be like, hey, let's go get pussy, right? That's a very
Right.
much like American bro type of thing to do. But it's like if you were to apply that and be like, we're gonna go get clit, it just doesn't like have the same ring to it if you're trying to establish like these guys are certain type of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
There's no way to know. One of the sort of things that kind of permeates the whole film is the use of anti-gay slurs, whether
Right.
they're
Yeah.
using the F word or just kind of flippantly calling things gay.
Like that fanny pack is gay. Like, what are you
Right,
talking about? A
right.
fanny pack.
He said subtitles is gay when they were in the
What?
hotel. He's like he's trying to check out at the desk and there's like something on in the background and he's like, how are we supposed to understand that without subtitles? That's gay. And I was like,
Right.
so it's like they're throwing that word around and like I had to tell myself at that point, I was like, this is such a specific dialogue choice
Hmm.
that I said Eli Roth is very intentionally like
Right, right,
broing
right.
all these guys, right?
Right.
Because there was a time in American vernacular where just,
Right.
you know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where it was like, oh, if I had a fanny pack, they'd be like, yeah, that's gay, right?
Right.
So
Or like
the
no homo.
exactly. So the use of that word and the use of sort of presenting the word in that way within the context of these guys all trying to out bravado one another uh
Hmm.
sends a very specific message, and it being intentional, I think, uh serves a much bigger purpose than if it were like, oh, this is a sign of the times and we're trying to maybe
Right.
mimic the kind of conversations that we had. And I'm sure like Eli Roth has been around, you know, moments where he's had conversations that probably echoed a lot of similar dialogue between guys
Honestly, the
because it just is
commentary
what it
between
is.
him and the producers was like that at times. Like not full
Not
on slurs.
surprising. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But it does like it raises sort of again that moral question of like, is this person worthy or is this person deserving of the fate that befalls them just because they're young, immature,
Hmm.
arrogant, dismissive, entitled, all of those things.
Right.
Like these are not characters that you generally would look up to for any reason.
Right.
But when it comes down to them getting tortured, like, do you want to see them get tortured? Because you had mentioned like, oh, you're just wanting to, you were kind of
I
going
thought it was
into
going to be
it.
like a Friday
Mhm.
the 13th 4 sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, these silly effects, you know? But it's
Hmm.
it's it's something that makes you empathize with them because this is the most terrifying situation. You know, know a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't want to go to Eastern Europe now, which is I can't imagine how somebody from Eastern Europe would feel about this movie. But yeah, this is the most terrifying situation for any expat, you know, to go to a country and for you to get sold to be tortured, you know. Um,
Yeah. That's a horrible fate to befall anybody. And I mean, these guys are not great guys, but I mean, the worst thing that they do is they throw around some derogatory language
right,
and they womanize a little bit, but also like
right,
not exactly like in the way that some other womanizing has been done on screen before. So it's
right.
like, yeah, they're not great, but they're not the kind of people that when you see in like a much broader context, like these aren't characters that you enjoy watching get hurt.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's an important distinction, I think.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. And like you said, it does kind of seem like a front that they put on, like, oh, you're gay, and it's just like, what are you even talking about? Like, it's just like they have to put on this front in order to, you know, I don't know, assure their sexuality. Kind of reminds me, you know, a lot of Y tu mama tambien,
Mm.
just the way that they would talk about things, and you know, and then of course that is definitely a buddy movie with repressed homosexuality, but you know, I definitely think it was intentional. on Eli Roth's part.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, at the age that these guys, I assume, are, I mean, they can't be older than, I would assume, 25. Maybe Ali's in his 30s because he's got a 6-year-old kid and he's just,
Right.
he's back out on the trails again. But I would imagine that the other two guys are maybe 25 at the oldest, and there is a lot of masculinity questions, sort of, and social cues that are getting presented to you like in that age, because now you're a guy, you've gone through high school, so it's like you've kind of gotten out of like whether or not you were being bullied and picked on or you were the one doing the bullying. There's a lot of self-definition making of what is and isn't masculine sort of in
Right.
those 20s, as your brain starts to finally solidify its development as you head towards 25. So it's not surprising to me to see sort of like the behaviors that they bestow upon one another and themselves, and sort of the rigid definitions that they go into these conversations with, of like what makes them a man and what makes them masculine, or what makes them more masculine than the friend that's sitting next to them. When in reality, it's like, if these guys were all 40, like that stuff just wouldn't be happening. They'd be all, if they're really friends, they would be there to like support one another, hopefully, and have each other's backs. And I think it is a sign of like, if you're a guy in your 40s and you're still broing out like this, you just haven't matured yet. And so I think casting these guys in a light that intentionally and repeatedly shows them as immature people, I
Mm-hmm.
think it allows us as the audience to be like, this is an incomplete view of who these people are. So, yes, we're not supposed to like them, but there is also, it's not like a closed loop at that point. It's like we're seeing them on a few days of their vacation where they get to really indulge every fantasy that they've ever had. And of course, their behavior is not going to be above board when they're in that mode. And casting them in that light is that important sort of like linchpin for this entire film, because you could make them much worse characters and then you just like cheer watching them die, basically. But that's a much different kind of story that you're telling, versus this story that's spiraling out of post 9/11, post Abu Ghraib. I remember stories coming out around this time as well. There's a news story that American passengers abroad were using Canadian flags on their luggage so that they were not readily
Right.
identified as Americans. So there was this large fear coming out of international travel, and like what the sort of the rest of the world sort of viewed Americans abroad. And I mean, there's films like Teresa's that came after this.
Mm-hmm.
The Ruins is another one where they're a group of foreigners that sort of trespass on land that they shouldn't be trespassing on. And sort of like, again, it's like white people, entitlement, foreign country. There's another one that I can't think of off the top of my head for some reason. Oh, Human Centipede is another one where foreigners get in
Right.
over their head. Wolf Creek, I think, is another one. But like Hostel is sort of the one that I don't know if it realistically started it, but I think it was the one that's the easiest to look back on now and say that this is sort of the beginning of that genre of horror films.
Right. Yeah. I don't have much expertise on all those. But yeah, I definitely think that this started a genre.
There's Eden Lake is another one where it's 2008, so a couple years after this, a Michael Fassbender movie where it's like this couple just gets tortured for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The one I'm thinking of is Perfect Getaway, where it's like a group, I think, of like 2 or 3 couples that are on vacation, and like one of them is evil. But again, it's like you remove the safety of being in an environment where you're comfortable and where you
Mm-hmm.
know you're safe, and you sort of can go through all of the regular motions of, hey, we're we're in our comfort zone. And so by putting these characters abroad and really putting them at the mercy of whoever just happens to be around them, it's a naturally sort of uncomfortable place to be. And then you fold in all of those elements of not just the rest of the world disliking Americans at this particular time in history, but also these particular Americans that you're putting abroad are grating and not necessarily the most likable characters. So it's like the perfect storm for why Hostel, I think, was able to sort of capture the imagination of people at the time that it came out. And Infinity Pool is another one of these movies that's more recent that sort of taps into
Isn't
the
that
same thing.
the Cronenberg Jr.?
Cronenberg Jr., that's right. It is Brandon, right?
I watched Possessor for the first time a couple days ago.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Did you like
That's
it?
a really good use of practical effects.
Yeah, I mean, they gave Andrea Riseborough a huge penis in that movie, so definitely great use of practical effects. But Possessor's awesome. It's very well done. And
Yeah.
I think Newman is covering that on his show, or it's coming out soon, or just recorded it. I don't know exactly when, but if you like Possessor, keep an eye out for that. Shout out to
Okay.
Newman at Movies for Days. So we do typically get into Critics Corner coming up semi soon, but
Mhm.
is there anything that we haven't really gone over yet that you had in your notes that you wanted to make sure that you get in there before we sort of like get the ball rolling towards the end of the show?
There's a lot of things.
There is one question I wanted to ask you before we at least start the decline or our descent to land. The kids, I guess, which is called the Bubblegum Gang.
That was so funny. I mean, I think we're supposed to be terrified of them, but
Yeah, but we talk about moments of levity in this film, and that moment where Josh is sort of confronted by them out on the street, like the music playing during that is comical. Like it's very clearly, I think, communicated that this is supposed to be funny. But
right.
then when that comes back into play at the end, it's like, Jay Hernandez gives him a bag of
They
candy.
really get those guys.
They
Like
do.
they are not afraid. Those guys had guns and they were like, "Yo, we got bubble gum, so we're gonna
Hmm.
do whatever we want for the bubble gum."
Yeah, they were so happy to get the gum that they're just like, all right, well, we're gonna kill these guys for you now. So clearly those kids are much more dangerous than it is led on at the very beginning when we're introduced to them. And it sort of does come across as this comical thing. And even in the moment where they sort of just interfere with the chase, which would
Uh-huh.
be enough, right? That's all you need.
Uh-huh.
You just have to get away. And so you get the kids to be a distraction. Yeah, okay, that works
Mhm.
totally fine. And then Eli Roth decides to up the ante there and be like, no, these kids are a product of this environment as well. And they're crushing this guy's skull in with a rock.
Yeah.
I think they stabbed the other guy in the head.
Yeah. Yeah, and Eli said he had so much fun with those kids on set. Like they were just hilarious. They were like breakdancing and stuff. um yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, well, what about the end credits? The audio at the end credits. You
uh,
stuck around for that, right?
I mean, yeah, it was rolling, but what was the audio? I wasn't
Oh, you
paying as
didn't?
close
Oh, that was
attention.
like one of the best parts. It's when he goes inside that building and he sees Josh's body on the slab and
Hmm.
she's like, "Yo," he's just like, "Oh, you're terrible, you whore, you bitch." She's like, "I get a lot of money for you.
Hmm.
So that makes you my bitch now." And
Hmm.
he plays that audio at the end credits.
Oh, okay.
I feel like he was inspired by some other older slasher movie. I think I heard him say that in a podcast. So I just thought that was an interesting creative choice. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that line had a lot of meaning and commentary to it. Just the fact that he chose to play that at the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I had it on and I was like, okay, like I'm just like finishing up my notes here as the credits roll, and I guess I just didn't like pay close
Right.
attention to that. But I appreciate you pointing that out because now I feel like I need to go back and watch the end credits and hear that again. Uh, And I was like, did they remix it? Did they turn it into a song or something?
I don't know, but I'm sure somebody has. Like I was like, when I first watched this, I'm like, I'm sure somebody's gonna see her as like some sort of like Amy Dunn type of figure and like misinterpret this movie completely. But yeah, no, I'm surprised that I even heard it because I think the first time I watched this was on Netflix, and Netflix doesn't usually roll the credits, but I guess they thought this movie was important enough that they should include that for that part.
All right, I'll have to check it out. I watched it on Pluto TV, and
Pluto is the worst.
I mean, I like that it has like live TV and movies and stuff like that, but there was a lot of commercials, and the one commercial that kept popping up was this one about flavored batteries. And I was like, are we really at the point in human history where we have to flavor our batteries so that children don't eat them? And apparently,
With
yes,
what?
because I don't know. It's probably like that stuff you put on your nails to like stop biting your nails. I think.
Yeah, I always like
bitter.
the smell of nails. So I'm like nail polish. Is that what you mean? Like nail polish? I don't know.
No, there's like it's like a bitter thing that like so people that are nail biters, it's like a clear gloss that you put on your nails.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but when you bite it, it's supposed to be like very abrasive and bitter, so it like trains you to not bite your fingernails anymore.
Right.
But I guess like the commercial is this little girl grabs like the remote and she's holding it and she's kind of like swaying and she looks like it's her toy. And then her and her dad are like having this tug of war over the remote. And then it's like, hey, new Duracell batteries are copper coated, so that way it discourages children from swallowing the batteries. And I'm like, what? Have we really arrived at this point in human history? And they just kept showing that commercial over and over. So it was.
Did you used to suck on batteries as a kid?
No.
Oh, I did.
Okay, so I guess it makes sense then. It makes a lot more sense than
But
I
I wouldn't
thought.
swallow them. I don't know. They're just like I kind of like chemical, taste.
It's a little coppery, a little metallic,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, so these were like the disc batteries, like the lithium sort of
Oh,
disc
okay.
style
That's
batteries.
weird.
Those are like so small that you could swallow them, but like your child will still have to take the remote, like open it up, take the battery out, then eat it.
Like you should be paying attention to your kid.
Yeah, like I get that, like, hey, this is like in the name of child safety and stuff, and like when you're designing toys, you want them to be a certain size so the kids don't swallow it, etc., etc. But still, like we have flavored batteries in 2023, so it was just very alarming because I don't really see like TV with commercials anymore, and then so.
Right.
To see something on Pluto is like, this is a commercial that I'm not going to see on terrestrial TV if I watched it anyway. So seeing all these weird commercials for different products, and I'm like, wow, these batteries have actually existed since 2020. That's kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't know. But that app sucks because it always crashes. I've had that issue with it at least.
Okay, so before we get to Critics Corner, I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here. I think we've had a very detailed discussion about this that will hopefully address a lot of the concerns and the conversation that was coming out of the group chat. And I told them, I was like, well, now I feel like I have to live up to some notion of this film that has been crafted here. Like I'm by no means an expert on this movie at all. So I was just going into it. I was like, well, Jamila said she was like preparing and she was reading notes and stuff. So
I mean, there's a lot of bad movies that I like. And again, I don't think this is a bad movie. I gave this 4 stars out of 5. Because I think this is a great movie. And I was so surprised. Like, you go on Letterboxd and it's like 2.6. I'm like, what? Like, not even like a 3? It's not that bad, in my opinion, at least.
It's not. It's like, I wouldn't say this is a bad movie. I could understand why people don't like it. That's for sure.
Right.
And I could understand, like, if you don't like it and you're going to respond and give it a low rating, then yeah, I can totally understand that too. But I think like if you step back and look at like the quality elements, I think that's strong enough to get it above like the halfway point for me, at least. So I want to ask you before we get to the Critics Corner, because we'll get to see what the critics really had to say about this film at the time. When you think back on this movie, since you went into it sort of anticipating a movie where you got to enjoy the characters dying in a way that,
yeah,
in a slashery type of way, Is
Right.
there a particular practical effect or a moment in the film that like really stood out to you more than the others? Was there one kill that was like, wow, that was like super impressive or anything like that?
Oh, I mean, it has to be like this is a moment where you're just like you're all in, and you're like, man, like this is horrible. This happened, and also step on it, like when he runs over those women who
Hmm.
basically cause him and his friends to die. And you're just like, yeah, like this is a movie that's anti-violence, but it's also like yeah, these people deserve they're just desserts because like what the heck, you know? Yeah, when he runs them over, when those kids are attacking those goons, it's just like you're either like screaming or you're laughing like crazy. Like it's just so strange. It's so strange. Or like just I mean, like again, it doesn't look that great, but you're just so like shocked that it happens when Kana throws herself in front of the train. You're just like, oh wow. Like he really went and he saved her, but it was all for nothing because I mean, honestly, she was probably in like a state of shock after that happened. So she probably wasn't in like a proper state of mind, but it's just like, oh wow. And he still has to get out of the situation. And thankfully he does, you know. And then also the part where he finds the guy and he follows him to that subway
Hmm.
bathroom. And he basically kills him like in a similar fashion to how uh that guy killed Josh, you know, without even knowing it.
Yeah, he actually like enacts vengeance,
Right.
which he hadn't done necessarily. Uh, like he does run the girls over with the car, but at the same time, and Alexi is one of them that he hits with the
Oh,
car
right. And
as
he's there
well.
too. Yeah, I would have been seeing red too. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like this is a whole organization. These people actually set me up. They like actually sent me to the slaughter. Like,
Mhm.
I can't let this happen to somebody else.
Yeah, and in that moment, he's in the car, like he's also in the midst of fleeing from some people that are chasing him.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of a necessity that he has to go forward in the car
Right.
regardless. And
And then he goes in reverse and gets I don't even know how he
yes,
knew she was still alive.
he circled back around and ran her over so brutally.
Yes.
So he's having this curve of where like he's exacting his vengeance, but then I guess in the scene where he finally like confronts the guy in the bathroom, cuts his fingers off, gives him a swirly in the toilet, and because it's
Right.
like he
He
doesn't
doesn't
drown
even
him.
say anything, right? He
He
doesn't even
doesn't.
say anything to him. Yeah, he's just like, this has got to be done.
Hmm. I think he says something to like to get him to put his hand on the ground where he grabs it and cuts it under the stall, but I don't remember
No, he
exactly
puts
what he
the
said.
card there. He
Oh,
just
that's
like puts
right.
the card there and he's like, and like that should have been that guy's sign, like, I'm about to die.
Yeah,
But he
this
was
can't
too
be
dumb.
good. So I guess from the perspective of going into it expecting to want to see these guys die, to then finding sympathy for them, and to then see him enacting his vengeance on these
Yeah.
people, like are you cheering for him to like kill all these people at the end of the movie?
I don't like it's so weird. Like as I was saying that, like I sound like such a psychopath. But it's such a thrill ride. You're just like, what the heck? Like if I were in this situation, yeah, I would run over those girls. And yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily be stalking that guy, but I probably would really be pissed and I probably would, you know, not be in my right mind, you know?
Hmm.
Like it's just a situation where like you feel like you're him, you know, and you're just like, this is crazy. This is crazy bananas. Like I don't even I can't even it's cathartic, basically, is what it
Yeah,
is.
and it's
And then you start to question like why do I feel like this is, you know, cathartic. But yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy the film.
well, I think one of the points that you raised and sort of we've come back to a couple times is sort of about this notion of deservedness. And
Hmm.
you're kind of put in a position where you are looking at these characters that are these stereotypes that are offensive, and you kind of want them to pay for it. And then when faced with the reality of what them paying for that actually means, there's a pretty clear distinction that they're not deserving of the violence that is inflicted upon them. But then in turn, we are then like cast into the last probably 30 minutes of the movie, maybe even a little bit less, where it's much faster paced and they're escaping, and he's, shot a guy in the head, he's shot another guy in the chest a couple of times, he's killed several people on his way out, and it's gone from necessity, where he's got to shoot the guy that's going to kill him, then he's got to shoot the guy that's coming in to check on him, and then the further he gets away from that, the more his motivations become revenge based. And so now we're with this character who is now our main character, and he is on a journey of retribution, and in the process, like, he's sort of losing himself in it, but we're now, as the audience, also kind of on his side, where it's like the people that he's killing are actually deserving of their fate.
Yeah. It's like a kind of like a eat the rich sort of analogy, in my opinion. I was gonna say something and I forgot, but I agree with everything you just said.
Well, if it comes to you, please just let me know and we'll circle back to it. But the two scenes I wanted to just touch on before we get into Critics Corner is the one that was the most disturbing, I think, for me, wasn't even any of the visceral violence. It wasn't the fingers or the chainsaw leg. It's where he's vomiting with the ball gag in his mouth.
Oh,
That's
really?
just so disgusting to me. And like the thought of, like, in that moment, like, you don't know if he's going to choke and die on his own vomit. And that's why he goes and he brings he has to unleash the ball gag. And then he's trying to like stick his fingers in his mouth to clear the vomit out. And he's trying to bite him. But that scene where like the barf is just spewing out from around the ball gag is so nasty.
What like, that scene is really interesting because, like, first of all, I'm not super, like, I could have looked it up, but are you curious what he said to that guy in German?
I read like a sort of brief transcription, and he said something along the lines of, if you do this, like my face will haunt you for the rest of your life, kind of thing.
Oh. And that's kind of like a callback to what he was saying before with that girl.
And it just seems like it's a moment that I feel like having subtitles for would have been beneficial, because the way he conveys the message, it's like he's begging for his life. But when you actually like see the translation of the words, it isn't so much like, please don't kill me. It's warning that, like, if you do this, like, you're never going to forget it. You're never going to live it down. You're going to be haunted by this for the rest of your life. But his delivery of it, like, he's sobbing when he says it. So it comes across as this thing of like, hey, please don't kill me. Like, look, I know you maybe think this about me, but like, look, I speak your native language and I'm just trying to appeal to you on a level that we have some common ground.
I like that line, but I'm okay with it being a mystery. But I do like it because it is like a callback, which kind of makes you question, like we were saying before, like, he kills those girls and he kind of has to because they see him and he needs to get out of that country. But then when he kills that guy, he doesn't have to do that. So he's basically accepting, like, this is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. But, maybe it won't as much because, this guy kind of, is evil,
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't
like,
know.
well, you see, he starts by killing the people with a gun, and then he uses a car, and then by the time he gets down to the final guy, it's like he's doing this essentially with his bare hands almost. He's drowning the guy in the toilet before he slits his throat. So it's a very intimate act of violence in that final scene, and it is like, did his experience with being on the receiving end of that violence change him to the point where he now like understands the, I guess, not necessity, but the value in ending this person's life? Or is he just
and
like,
you
in a
notice he
fit
like
of
cut off
rage?
his fingers, like it kind of seemed like in the same way that his were cut off.
He did, yeah. I sawed those things off with a scalpel. And then I guess the last scene, it kind of like made me laugh a little bit, but I don't know what that says about me. But it's so where Kana, she jumps in front of the train. That's not the part that's funny. It's like she sees herself, she realizes.
Oh, those people! Yes.
I was like, the last thing we see, well, it's not the exact last thing, but she jumps, And then we see the blood spray, and it's like there's just two grandmas like standing on the
Right.
platform that just get sprayed with blood. And I'm like, why did Eli Roth have to spray those two grandmas with blood? And then you see her body like getting completely chewed up underneath the
Right.
train.
And
But
they
that moment
react
with the
like
grandmas.
such Europeans. Like if that were to happen anywhere else, people would be freaking out. Like they're just like, oh wow, that that was so impolite, that woman.
Just another Tuesday at the train station.
Right.
But yeah, I just found it funny that the people that he decided to like be front row for the splash
No,
section
that
were
is
these two
funny.
older ladies. Okay, I think we're at a good point where we go to Critics Corner now, and then we can really see what the horrible things that
Right.
all the critics had to say. And honestly, I'm looking at it right now. It's not that bad.
Oh,
It has a
really?
Metascore of 55, so that's it's in the realm of it qualifies for this show, but is also not the lowest I've ever seen on this show by 50 points probably.
What was the
So
lowest? What movie was that?
I think it was Biodome had either a 1 or a 0 as the
Oh,
lowest.
wow.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you like that movie?
I do. It's like stupid and goofy, but like William Atherton has a really great performance in it, and I think if it were made like today with sort of the knowledge of stuff like climate change and pollution and all that stuff that has a much bigger media footprint than it did back in the 90s when that got made. I
Wait,
think
who made that? Who directed that?
I don't know. I don't remember who directed Biodome, but it was like
It wasn't
capitalizing.
Emmerich, was it?
I don't think so. But it was capitalizing at the time on Pauly Shore's marketability. So he was like, he had In the Army Now and Son-in-Law right around then as well. So it was like just striking while the iron's hot. And it was actually Jason Blum was the director. So
Oh, is that Bloomhouse? Bloom?
I
Wait, what am
don't
I talking about?
believe so. That's Jason Blum. But
Oh, okay.
this gentleman did Viva Lost Nowhere and Overnight Delivery, which I do like a lot, which is a very young Reese Witherspoon and Paul Rudd, just kind of like on a road trip
Hmm.
rom-com. So that's my rom-com baseline right there, is that kind of
And
movie.
you
And
haven't done any Roland Emmerich movies on your show?
no, surprisingly not, because we
Oh.
did the 98 Godzilla for Kaijun when we were doing film club. So that's a movie that probably would have qualified pretty easily.
Is that the
But
one with Sarah Connor? Is that the one? Am I
uh
thinking of something
n-
different?
no, Sarah Connor is not in
Or
that
is she in a King
Godzilla.
Kong? I don't
She's,
know.
yes, I think so.
Okay.
I would have to look that up though. Yeah, oh no, wait. Yes, Linda Hamilton is in, I believe, the sequel to King Kong, which was a 1980s movie. I think it was the sequel to De Laurentiis's King Kong from the 70s, and it's called
Okay.
King Kong Lives.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that Linda Hamilton is in. I think
That was
King,
on like a few months ago. It was on like YouTube for like free, and I started watching it.
yeah, it's one of those where you want to watch it for free when you have the chance, because King Kong, I believe, gets a heart transplant in that and finds like a King Kong wife as well. So it's a very interesting take on King Kong in
He doesn't
general.
fall in love with Linda Hamilton.
No, Linda Hamilton has her
Okay.
own love interest, and so they got to get Kong his own love interest as well. And I'm pretty sure there's a female Kong and a heart transplant. This is something I would have to check with Nix, because he's very much into the King Kong universe, so I could ask him some of the details.
Okay.
But this is not a discussion about King Kong. I mean,
Right.
it can be. But we're going to start with the New York Times, because they gave this movie a 40 on a scale of 100. And it says Hostel is
Oh.
motivated by an adolescent urge to shock. And while it's true that no civilized person will remain unscathed by the film's relentless bigotry, this is one of the most
Mm.
misogynistic films ever made. Mr. Roth's gory spectacles are too calculated to deliver the transgressive jolts they so obviously seek. So I'll say at least the New York Times understood that, hey, there's some more mechanics at play than simple kind of like slasher elements. Like they know it's not a slasher. They know that
Hmm.
some of the motivation is to shock, and of course it is. Like the visceral scenes are very visceral, uh,
Hmm.
and like the term torture porn was coined because of this movie, and it seems to enjoy its use of practical effects, which, you know, is a thing that is not uncommon in horror movies altogether. But it seems to fall into the camp of Eli Roth is dumb and making a movie that he thinks is cool rather
Right,
than
right.
giving him any credit for trying to sort of ask some of the subversive questions that get brought to the table in this film.
Right. I know this is a different question, like a different topic, but do you know, I know Cabin Fever performed really well, which is why he, even ended up directing this, and
Hmm.
he was offered like to direct so many other horror movie remakes, but was it received well critically, you know?
Cabin Fever again is one that at the time that it came out, I thought it was received well critically, but then it could just be the circles that like were my movie friends at the time were all like kind of the similar age and mindset. So it's like we see something like Cabin Fever and like, hey, that's good horror, but you know, this has a 5.6, so it's slightly lower than Hostel, but in the same ballpark ratings wise.
Hmm.
That's a good
Okay, yeah, I
question.
was just curious.
It obviously afforded him the opportunity to go on and to do other projects. So Cabin Fever was successful in that way, and I guess so was Hostel because he kept going on beyond this. But Hostel was probably the one that really like put him on the map in terms of like being somebody to watch.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I don't agree with that review.
yeah, it's the New York Times. There's no name associated with it too, so I can't even say like, oh, this person said it, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so we've got two 50s, but one of them is from the Boston Globe, and it just is not horrifying enough. And so I don't know what movie that guy was watching, but Sir Wesley Morris, if you don't think that's horrifying, then I don't know what to tell you. So we're gonna go to the AV Club, and that is Scott Tobias, who I follow on
Okay.
on Twitter. Says Roth gets the notes right while missing the music. He studiously replicates Mike's unblinking depiction of torture, but without much reflection or wit. It's merely unpleasant and more than a little dumb. So he gave it a 50 out of 100. So that's, you know, on the Ebert scale, it's a 2 out of 4. It's not terrible. But
Right.
again, this seems like another person who doesn't,
Like, this is
does,
just a dumb movie. It's not
yeah.
saying anything. See, I haven't seen any of Mike's films, so I would like to see them. I know he was very much inspired by Audition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I can't really comment on that either, except to say like I disagree, but maybe Audition is just like super,
But again, this points to like a second person, at least, that is looking at this as like Eli Roth is not as smart as he thinks he is, kind of criticism. And part of while I was watching the film, I'm like, is this done with the intent to make this seem like this is cool and this thing to like aspire to as a young man? Because I imagine, let me see, Eli Roth, where is he? I had his bio pulled up here a second ago, and
I mean, like,
now,
what did they think he was? Like, that's the thing. I didn't know anything about Eli Roth except for
mhm,
his role in Inglorious Bastards.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I didn't know if he's a bro. I don't know if he's a horror movie aficionado. I was just like, oh, this movie's saying something clearly, And I kind of started to doubt that the more I would hear him talk about things, but clearly I listened to this commentary and he's saying like basically all the things that I said and you
Mhm.
said, um and a lot of the choices made were intentional.
Yeah, so he's born in 1972. So he's 32, 33, probably the time that he's working on this film. So he's not approaching it from like, hey, I'm a 23-year-old
Right.
like film school grad that just
Uh-huh.
is like getting my feet wet and I think this is awesome and this is like what I'm going to project as being cool. I think he's got enough distance from that to articulate that these are characters that are meant to be big sort of broad strokes characters that we're not supposed to really be enjoying in that way. But It seems like the people that are on the negative side of the spectrum have sort of cast him in the negative light of like, oh, he's just a broing out and thinking it's cool. So we'll see what we have left. We've got, let's see, we got two 60s. So it's LA Weekly or the LA Times. I'll let you pick your poison.
Um, let's go with the Times.
Los Angeles Times. This is Jan Stewart. Says seems to have been tailored to its designated R for brutal scenes of torture and violence, strong sexual content, language, and drug use. That's not much of a review or a criticism or much of anything. I'm surprised
Right.
that this is the pull quote that came from the LA Times, Jan Stewart.
Thanks, Jan.
Right. But I did read that he sort of assumed that the movie was going to be NC-17 because of how he made it. And then once he saw, excuse me, that it was actually an R-rated film by the board, then he just trimmed a couple things out for timing wise. But it seems like he made it with the expectation that it was going to not receive the R and they were going to have to edit it down a lot more.
Oh, this is remember when I said I forgot something?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember it.
Okay, let's go.
Basically, the ending was supposed to be completely different. I'm so glad that they stuck to this ending. I don't know if you know this. He was supposed to somehow find his daughter and like threaten to kill his daughter. The German man's daughter. Paxton was. And that was supposed to be the ending. Like basically he was supposed to get his vengeance out on his daughter because she was the only thing he cared about. And yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. And that doesn't make him sympathetic. And I don't know how he would find his daughter anyway.
Right? Like, how much longer is the movie at that point? It goes on for another 45 minutes of him following the German guy back to his home and tracking his daughter
Maybe that was
down and
supposed to go
kidnapping
into
her.
the sequel. I don't know, but yeah, I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, because
Have
like
you seen the
said,
sequel?
I think I may have seen it like when it came out, but it didn't register as something that like I'm storing in my memory for any particular reason. But I'm a little more curious to check it out now after rewatching this.
Oh, I'm not a huge fan of it. I actually couldn't finish it.
Hostel 2.
Yeah, I thought the torture was too much because I'm not saying that I liked that. I feel like it's so often in genre films. It's like let's watch women be abused and tortured, and it's kind of the opposite in this film, which I thought was interesting. So in Hostel 2, it is let's watch women be abused and tortured, and they just up the ante with that torture. I couldn't even watch this poor actress who I think in real life is going through things, and she went through stuff on the set of that film, and I was just like, yeah, I can't watch this scene. But I know a lot of people like it.
Okay. But I mean, with that in mind, not being able to finish the second one and seeing how it's portrayed, knowing that it's still directed by Eli Roth, does that change like your perspective on
that is a good question.
His goals with the first one? Like, because it seems like
apparently there's this ending that makes the messaging different. I don't know. I mean, I don't have like this reverence for Eli Roth per se. I just don't think people give him enough credit for the things he's trying to say with this film. I think people who dismiss it as saying it's misogynistic or it's like super like torture porn. I think they're missing things. But to say that he basically went and did exactly what I think people think he did in Hostel in the second one. That's just how it is. So sometimes you'll watch a film and you'll enjoy it, and then the follow up is disappointing. And I think I watched Cabin Fever recently, and I was like, okay, this is the one everybody said this is his blank check basically, and the reason why Hostel even got made. And that was another one I felt mixed about. So, which I think is always an issue with genre films. Like there's some great aspects of it, but then there's some not so great aspects. So I don't know. Maybe I'll watch more of his films. The Green Inferno is supposed to be some sort of like environmental message, isn't it?
I would say the environmental message is like very, very loosely softballed in there, but it
Right.
is there. It's like it's the catalyst for the film more than it is the meaning of the film.
Right.
Um, but it is graphic and it's torture-y, and these people are in a foreign land getting tortured by a foreign people, and so it has a lot of the hallmarks of Eli's stuff, but I'll leave it at that. And if you want to watch it, go for it. And then I would say, like, if you watch that and watch Knock Knock, I think that'll give you like a good full spectrum view of Eli, and maybe change the way you look at his career as a whole, but maybe not. Um,
Right.
but it is interesting that like he could make this kind of movie. It gets mostly panned by critics, despite it being successful. And then it's like, okay, well, I made a movie that I tried to incorporate these themes into, and basically nobody got it, and they just called it
Hmm.
torture porn. So you're going to give me money to make a sequel? I'll show you what torture porn is, right?
Yeah, like a lot of people, like including other women, like the second one. So,
Hmm.
maybe my reading is just wrong. All I know is it's very rare for me to stop watching a horror movie these days because I feel uncomfortable. And I
Hmm.
felt uncomfortable watching that. But I ended up reading the rest of the plot and I was like, okay, maybe I should have stuck around, but I have no interest in finishing it. And it's probably because what's her face? What is her name? It's like Heather Matarazzo. She's been
Hmm.
very vocal about some like issues that she's had in the industry, and I felt like maybe I just kind of sympathize with her too much that I couldn't watch her be tortured. So
Okay, fair enough. And if it's my memory is very, very fuzzy on this, but did they flip it so that the main characters are like a group of women in the
yeah, they're
second
a
one?
group of women.
Okay,
Hmm.
gotcha. Okay, so let's get back on track here. We've got
Right.
uh we've got let's see, two 70s, one of which is Variety and the other one is the Hollywood Reporter. So you can
Mm.
pick that too.
Let's go with Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter. This is Michael Rechtschaffen. Says Eli Roth turns to modern day Asian fright filmmakers as inspiration for his latest blood soaked effort while demonstrating an intriguing original voice of his own. Look at that.
Okay.
Something positive. That's why it's a 7 out of 10 on this guy's scale. So, yeah, they clearly see that he's like a student of the game, and he enjoys horror filmmaking, and he's well versed in his appreciation for it, and give him credit for carving out his own voice within the space. So
Right.
that's a lot of what we sort of talked about, is that like he is clearly a guy who loves horror films.
Hmm.
um I think it said that, if I read his bio correctly, that he got into making films after watching Ridley Scott's Alien and throwing up. So he watched that movie, barfed, and then was like, I got to do this for a living. Uh,
And you watched that movie and you were like, I gotta name my dog Ridley Scott.
basically, yes. Yeah, my dog, it was her name. I think my mom wanted to name her Ripley, but she only wanted to do that because she heard somebody else had named their dog Ripley. And I was like, no, don't just copy them. So she was like, well, what about Ridley Scott? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, we all like Ridley Scott, so no problems there. And it stuck.
Does she really
So,
like Alien?
the dog?
No, your mother.
Yes, no, my mother loved Alien, and she showed it to me at a very young age, and so it just kind of stuck. I
Ripley's
mean,
a great name, though. I don't
it
know. You could
is.
have named it. What's
Newt.
the guy's name? The robot guy. I love him.
Oh, the second one is what? Is Ash? No, that's the first one. Bishop is the robot in the second
Yes, I
one.
love Bishop. Should name her Bishop.
Okay, we've arrived at the top tier of the reviews, and we've got 375. So that's impressive.
Right.
We've got Entertainment Weekly, TV Guide Magazine, and the New York Post, all 75. So I'll let you choose.
Um, Entertainment Weekly.
All right, Entertainment Weekly. It's Owen Gleiberman. I read his reviews on here a lot. So
Oh, cool.
Mr. Gleiberman says it's obligatory for a horror film to feature exploitative sex as an appetizer. But Roth, even as he fulfills the sleaze imperative, does something shrewder. He mocks his heroes, presenting them as cold-eyed horn dog jerks who fail to see that they've wandered into an entire country of exploitation. So there you go. Like Owen
Right.
Gleiberman. Yeah.
Exactly what we've been saying.
Yeah.
It's
Diagnosed it
interesting
pretty well.
that these publications that are, uh classier aren't really getting the messaging. And it's like, oh, the Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah, and you got to get the sleaze rags in there, but I mean,
Right.
no offense to those trade magazines. I've read those in the past, and
No,
they're all
I'm
good.
like, kudos to them. And it's
Yeah,
like we have so much, they have so much like esteem, New York Times, but they didn't really get it.
yeah, and I think what I like most about Gleiberman's pull quote here is that he understands that when you're making a horror film, there's going to be exploitative sex, like
Uh-huh.
especially if you're someone that has sort of come up with 70s and 80s slashers as your foundation for why you like horror, because Eli was born in, I think, 72 is what I read.
Hmm.
So he's coming up through all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Jasons, uh Sleepaway Camp. Like he's coming through all of the classic slashers through the 70s and 80s. So basically every single one of those movies has some topless girl get killed. And even when we were watching that Friday the 13th with Cosmo, it was like girl, they're going like skinny dipping or something. She takes her shirt off and then like Jason appears. And I'm like, does he have like boob radar? It's like he just knows that there's boobs out and he needs to kill anybody who's involved in that. And
Right.
it all goes back to this thing of like sex being this sort
You
of
know.
like evil that people want to punish, and like that's
Mhm.
pretty present throughout a lot of horror films. And so recognizing that this is sort of like a necessary requirement in order for a guy like Eli Roth to make this kind of horror film,
Right.
but then still understanding that, look, he fulfills the thing that he has to fulfill in order for it to fall into this category of film. But also, he really mocks the people that we're going to end up trying to sympathize with down the line. And
Right.
that's a really tricky, difficult thing to do. Like when you're creating a character who's going to survive a really sort of gruesome event, or several events in this case. uh Typically you want that person to be someone that's the most sympathetic, and like you said, it was Josh that kind of comes across as, oh, I'm the more respectful, nerdier type guy who's just kind of like going along with my bros, and they kind of like bust my balls about not being like man enough and not doing enough womanizing, but really I'm just like the nice guy that is here because they're here and we're going to have a good time. And then it's
Hmm.
like, oh no, you're not even the main character. Like you're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that part is so cool.
It is, and it's a interesting gambit too when you're going to take the guy who, like when I brought up American Werewolf in Paris, like Josh is almost like the main character in that film, where he's
Hmm.
like awkward around women and he's sort of like goofy, and he's the one of his three bros that isn't like broing hard enough. He's not, he's the least
Hmm.
cool of the guys that he's with. And so that typically ends up being your main character. And so it's a challenge in and of itself, to the filmmaker to move away from that guy being your hero, but then it further challenges the audience to really see a person like Paxton, uh
Hmm.
who is maybe like the most stereotypical of the group,
Right.
in a negative way.
Hmm.
And to then move the focus of the film to him and his survival story, like you're actually giving the audience a fair amount of credit, which kind of puts me more so in the camp of like Eli was smart enough to figure this stuff out, and just people were maybe not ready for it at the time.
Right.
And since I've
Uh-huh.
seen more films more recently that have also been like, here's a main character that when we introduce you to this character, they're not really a likable person. And
Hmm.
then the more time you spend with them, it's not necessarily that they become like super likable, but you start to understand and sympathize with them the longer you're with them.
Right. Yeah, I honestly wonder, he had like I guess three other writers. He had Boaz Yakin and Scott Spiegel were producers on this film,
Mm.
and I think they really helped him make changes to the story to make it more subversive. Because I think originally they were just going to have Josh be the main character, and to survive. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they ended up doing the things that they did and making the changes they did. Because I think kind of regardless of whether or not you walk away from Hostel liking the movie, I mean, like, because it's a tough movie to be like, hey, I really like Hostel, because it's like, it's graphic, it's violent, it's
But
got a
wouldn't
lot.
you say it's like pretty tame for today? Like for some horror movies today. I mean, like even Jurassic World came out, and I know people think the scene is terrible. And that woman is just like getting torn apart by that pterodactyl. That was like a family movie. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a
It
good
feels
point.
pretty tame for today. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it's more about like in a scene like where you see someone get torn apart, like the amount of like blood, I would say. Like
Mhm.
I don't remember that scene that well with Jurassic
So
World,
it's
but
like the blood. Okay. Because
yeah,
like even when you see Josh get killed, you don't see him get killed. It cuts to the next scene. You
mhm,
know, even with like that woman's toe, it cuts to her friend cutting her toenail. Like
yeah.
it doesn't really show you that much carnage, and then when it does show you, it's like this just taking apart some fingers from a hand. I don't know. Maybe I'm desensitized.
Maybe. I don't know what your general horror movie viewing appetite is. But like a film that came out earlier this year in Evil Dead Rise, like is
Mhm.
pretty graphic, pretty bloody. I mean, you get like limbs, I think, like shot off, and there's a lot of, like chainsaw blood spraying everywhere. So I think it's more, at least for me, about the tone of the scene,
Mhm.
because it's like you could give me a chainsaw and a ton of blood, but depending on how that scene is
Yeah.
depicted is going to determine whether or not like I think it's something that's trying to be funny, or it's trying to be gross, or trying to like
Okay.
really
So
be
if it was
disturbing.
like campier, it wouldn't have been,
Yeah, I think that's probably a good indication of where Hostel lies, because it's graphic, but it's not like out of this world graphic.
Mhm.
But yeah, the tone is almost always very serious in the moments
Mhm.
where that graphic violence is happening.
Right. Like we're saying, like it makes you question your appetite for violence.
Yeah, which I think is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we've arrived at the end. We're getting
Yay.
we're getting on the train. We're not jumping in front of it. And I typically ask my guests at this point in the show, for people that have seen Hostel and want to see more like it, or for people who are maybe on the fence of watching Hostel and you would want to give them a comparison film to sort of ease them into watching Hostel. Do you have a movie that falls into that realm?
Oh yeah. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. I think Fresh is really great. Um, I think I watched that with my mom, and even then we were complaining about, not really complaining, just like you really don't see anything in that film. I don't want to spoil it, but it kind of has like a similar plot to Hostel. And you don't really see a lot of carnage or anything. It's more of like a comedy horror film, and it's kind of a commentary on dating actually. um and then I don't know, I feel like, of course this is older, it's kind of like a staple. I watched Texas Chainsaw, and I feel like they're very similar in tone and with their commentary as well. And that one is definitely campier, so I don't know.
No,
If you
that's
can't
a good
stomach
point.
like the seriousness of Hostel, that might be good. Or again, you might like Hostel 2. I didn't like it, but I've also seen Hostel 3, and that one is just, it's not good. And there's no involvement with
Okay.
Roth. But the opening scene is incredible. And
Okay.
it's enjoyable, and I'm like, okay. In the exact way I thought Hostel 1 would be enjoyable. I was like, okay, I'll just put this on just to be a completionist, but of course I haven't completed it. But yeah, it's not good, but it's kind of fun.
Okay.
And the opening scene is great.
All right. Well, I mean, like you said, if you need some laundry that needs folding, or you just want something on in the background, then maybe that's the right time to check it out. I guess my two primary recommendations in that neighborhood would be probably like Eden Lake, with Michael Fassbender, and The Ruins, which has Jenna Malone. And I think The Ruins is probably a little bit closer in that it is a small group of American friends. They team up with some foreigners that lead them to a place where they shouldn't be. And then shit hits the fan when they're in the place that they shouldn't be. And they're sort of asking you whether how much you want to sympathize with these people who are clearly like being disrespectful of like this ancient place that they're in. And
Right.
I think
That sounds good. I gotta watch that.
yeah, it gets a little probably too far away from its biggest strengths by the end of the movie. Like it is good, and then when it's kind of like revealed like what the it part of it is, it's like okay, like I get it, but they didn't maybe do that part as much justice as I would have hoped. But I still do like that movie. I have the unrated version. I've watched it several times. So even my one like little nitpicky kind of criticism with it is still a movie that I like in the horror genre quite a bit. So
Okay, I gotta add that to my list. I'm sorry, I just thought of one that's really good.
go for it.
I saw it for the first time the other day, and it was just like I had the same feeling watching it when I watched Hostel. Have you seen Green Room?
Yes. Oh, Green Room is so good.
Oh my God, that
Yeah,
was crazy. Oh my God.
but yeah, that was also one of Anton Yelchin's final films as well. So it's
Yes.
one of the reasons that it was like on my watch list at the time. But yeah, very brutal. You got a band of guys that are like in the wrong place at the wrong time, and shit escalates very, very quickly. And there's some really gnarly graphic stuff that happens in that film as well. Yeah, Green Room's a good one. But yeah, we've arrived at the station. It's time to depart, but uh is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to say before we get out of here? We talked about so much. It's really like we did cover so
Honestly.
much ground.
uh, yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
Okay. And I know you had mentioned, I just found out though for the first time that you had like a film blog, and I know you've got Letterbox and stuff like
Oh
that. Do you
yeah.
want to shout your projects out and then I can share them around for you?
Um, well, I would probably say you can follow my letterbox, and also my Twitter. I am at Jamila Brownie. Um, like a brownie that you eat. Uh, and I do have a film blog, but it's mostly stuff that I put on there that it's pretty infrequent. So I would just check out my letterbox and stuff.
Okay. And thank you so much for bringing this movie to the table. I really hope we're gonna live up to the expectations of the film club that has now like hyped this episode up so much just over the course of the last, day or so. And, Sean, got to thank him for sticking it out for a movie that he didn't like just so he could listen to us talk about it. And he says,
Like, what part did he leave on? Like, he was like 5 minutes.
Uh,
Yo.
yeah, I mean, he watched the whole thing, but I think in
Oh,
hindsight,
I
he
thought you
was
said
like,
he was like 5 minutes, I'm out.
yeah, that was just like his sort of letterbox review is that like after the first 5 to 6 minutes, you can just stop and there's nothing to be gained from it beyond there.
Aw.
So I appreciate him, sticking it out just so that he could listen to us whine
Right.
about it for 2 hours. Because now his movie that was an hour and a half they didn't like, he has to listen to us talk about it for 2 hours and some change. So Sean,
Yeah.
you're a
And
trooper,
I'm
my guy.
sorry if I like I'm so bad at expressing myself so much. So
No, you
I
did a
do have
great
like a
job.
really long essay about it on my
Send it to
blog
me.
and on
Yeah,
Letterboxd.
send it to me.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you I started listening to y'all's Morbius episode, and
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but in particular, like just the way you would like edit things and like like just like and he has this bat entourage. It was just cracking me up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've tried to get better at the sort of like the production work that goes into the show to kind of lead in with some of the funnier things. And get the ball rolling and get the show started on the right foot. So thank you for listening. And the Morbius episode was a lot of fun, and I think Sean was a little surprised that multiple people listened to it. I was like, yeah, there's like 30 or 40 people that morbed out with us, so we're not alone in the Morbius club, and we're just waiting for Ben to finally bite the bullet and get on the
Oh, he
Morbius
hasn't
train
done
with
one?
us. No, Ben has
I thought his was
stubbornly not
Showgirls.
watched it. No, he came on the show with Nix and we did Showgirls, and that was a great
Oh,
episode.
he hasn't watched Morbius. Honestly, unfortunately, I never finished it, and it's not because I thought it was super bad. It was really funny to me. But I don't know. Sometimes I'll watch movies and I have to do something and I'll just never get around to finishing it. So I gotta finish that. But yeah, I think I listened to a podcast where they were talking about it and I know everything that happened, but so
yeah, that's why, Ben has been sort of waiting to pull the trigger on Morbius. And I was like, look, if the only good thing that like really comes out of this is me and Sean make Ben watch Morbius,
right.
Then
And you guys are
we will
very
have
wrong.
won.
Doctor Who is very popular here, at least with my demographic.
Okay.
Like, we had people come in dressed as Doctor Who characters. I had this English teacher who was obsessed with this minor character on like one season of Doctor Who. It's very popular.
It
The
is.
new
Sean and I just don't like it.
Right.
Well,
But you
I
guys
never
are
watched
like,
it.
I don't think Matt Smith has the power. He's, for some reason, I shouldn't have said that, but he's known as like the sexy iteration of Doctor.
Okay.
So it's very popular.
He is. I'm just saying, like, as a Hollywood actor, like,
yeah, but no, he's definitely a draw.
Okay. Well, maybe that's why Morbius has a following in the first place.
Maybe.
I know Matt Smith was in one of the Terminator movies as well, but it's like he's kind of just.
Was he?
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
The one?
Exactly. Was he? He was in the background. He's like, he plays a character that is briefly shown his face, and then he's like a hologram the rest of the movie. So it's like, yeah, he's in it, but is he really?
Honestly, I mean, I've watched some of them. The last one I watched was the one with Christian Bale, and that wasn't
Salvation.
super good. Honestly, and then the one with like the female Terminator, I watched that a lot as a kid.
Terminator 3.
It's definitely not one of the better ones.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, Terminator 3 is it held up better than some of like the 5 and 6 with Genesis and Dark Fate.
It did, but it's strange that they didn't have Edward Furlong play John.
I know, right? I mean, he wasn't really like doing that much other stuff. He had come off of American History X, so maybe his price tag to be John Connor had like climbed a little bit more than
maybe it was like substance abuse issues or something.
Could have been that too, He's
and then the guy that they cast, he doesn't even like look like him either. It's strange.
Yeah. He wasn't even terrible or anything, but it's just like you're stepping into some really big shoes in that Terminator 3, where it's like you're probably better off just like not even having John in the movie at that point and like go get Linda Hamilton back. Make the whole movie you guys looking for John, and then like you find him at the end. It doesn't matter that it's Edward Furlong or not.
Yeah, and I guess they tried that with that recent one. Like, let's not even like, I mean, she was in it, Linda Hamilton was in it, but it's kind of like, let's take away the John Connor from Terminator. It's probably where they need to go with that. But honestly, they need to stop making the movies if James Cameron's not involved, in my opinion.
Dark Fate was a weird one where I liked it because it really adheres to the sort of tentpole mythology moments in Terminator, where it's like these things about fate and timeline cycles and inevitability and erasing John from the equation. I know was really off-putting to a lot of people because it's like, hey, Eddie Furlong's back, Linda Hamilton's back, and then we're going to kill off John in the first like 5 minutes of the movie. Really just like set people off in the beginning. But some of what that movie explores, it explores well. I just don't know that the appetite for really having those conversations around Terminator exists once sort of the goodwill was burned out of the franchise, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like had Dark Fate been the direct sequel to Terminator 2, I think you maybe have more more appreciation for it,
Mhm.
because it seems like it follows in the footsteps of what those first two films had established. And then by the time you do Terminator 3, which is a John centric movie, you do Salvation, which is another John centric movie, you do Genesis, which is another John centric movie. So you moved off of the first two Terminator films, where like I started to realize I got older that Terminator is Sarah Connor's story. It's not John's story, right? Like the first
Yeah.
one, John's not even in it. The second one is about her going from being like sort of like a waitress who's like helpless in the unraveling of her own fate, to her like
Mhm.
taking an active hand in it. And the first time we see her in Terminator 2, she's shredded because she's just been like working out in her cell. And we get that kind of Sarah Connor, who becomes like the badass mama bear
She
Sarah
basically
Connor.
becomes Kyle Reese.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And
I
so it's her
rewatched the
story.
first Terminator for like the first time in like a long time, and I guess I'd never seen it in its entirety. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that part where he's freaking out, that's just like when she's freaking out at the asylum. Just
yeah.
like, damn, she just becomes him.
Yeah, so I started recently the Sarah Connor Chronicles because I heard good things about that. And it's like a little bit of a learning curve, because it's like, oh, there's a different John, a different Sarah, there's no Arnold. So it's like I'm trying to give it enough time to breathe where I can start to really like
You like
accept
it?
these characters.
Never watched that show.
The first episode was a really good entry point back into the Terminator universe, but you can tell that like they spent a lot of their budget on making that first one sort of like as close to the movies as they could while it's still a TV show. And then the subsequent ones are kind of like they're slowing down the pace a little bit, but yeah, I'm trying to give
Isn't
it a
there like
chance.
a female Terminator who's played by like Summer
Yes.
Glau?
Yep, there's a female Terminator, or I don't know. I think at this point I just know that she's like a cyborg of some kind. I don't know what she is
Okay,
yet, but yeah.
interesting.
So, hey, if anybody's listening to this and you want to talk about Terminator 3 or any of the other Terminators after Terminator 2 on Bad Movies We Love, please reach out to me and I will gladly entertain you on that. Um, but yes, do you
There's
know
this
what?
part in that movie where her chest literally grows.
In
You remember that?
in which one?
Is that the one with Claire Danes, Terminator 3?
Yeah, that's the one with Kristana Loken is the Terminatrix.
Yeah, her chest, like she sees like an ad in a
She makes her boobs
store,
bigger.
and you can I'm like, this movie is ridiculous. Because what? Why would that be necessary? All she has to do is kill John Connor. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, because when they introduced like Arnold and they introduced the T-1000, Robert Patrick in the second one, those guys aren't like, hold on, let me first make my dick bigger before I go around and
Right.
kill these people. Maybe they did and they just did it off camera, but you never know.
Right.
It's like a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Terminator is there to do. But she's like, hey, you know what? If my boobs are bigger, maybe I'll be able to more easily infiltrate the human world.
I
I don't know.
guess.
Yeah, that's. I guess I got to go back and watch that one again. But
Despite the fact that she already looked like a a model.
yeah, they sent a supermodel back in time. It's like she'll be fine. You know, she doesn't need to grow her boobs.
No, she
But
needs bigger breasts.
yeah, well, you never know. I mean, I don't. Does she put them to use in the movie,
I
or
don't think
it's just
so.
a
No.
throwaway scene? There's not like a scene later where her like
Yeah,
boobs
and then
come in
also
handy.
like yeah, yeah, it's weird.
Well, that's a show for another time when we do Terminator 3. But hey, if anybody, I swear, if anyone's listening, I love Terminator 3. It's so goofy. It's the last of sort of the big
Where you
action
kind of
style.
you kind of enjoy it, but you're like, this is not as good.
Oh yeah. I mean, at the time it came out, I was like, this movie sucks. And then then I watched it like a bunch more after that, and I was like, okay, like it obviously didn't suck as much as I thought the first time. And then the more they keep trying to make Terminator movies, the more I'm like, well, Terminator 3 is like the closest to Terminator 2 that they've gotten since all these other ones have come out. It still does a lot of like the Terminator things, like there's the chase scene and the robot fight, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. So it does all of that stuff well. It just maybe the connective tissue isn't quite as strong.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a pleasure. I'm glad that we've touched on Terminator and Aliens and all these other movies as well
And King
besides
Kong and
Hostel.
Godzilla.
King Kong and his love interest, you know.
Oh, I don't know why I thought he fell in love with Linda Hamilton.
He may have. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but yeah, this is the 1980s one, and I think Nick's wanted to talk to me about De Laurentiis's one from 72 or 76. I don't know. I got to go back and look and touch base with him. But Jamila, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And should you find another movie that you feel you want to bring to this show, please let me know, and we'll schedule another talk sometime in the future.
All right, thank you. I will. I like your mushroom shirt.
Oh, thank you so much. I got this up in Northern California, and then the guy who sold it to me was like, "Do you like those kind of mushrooms?" And I can tell like he's done a lot of drugs in his life, and so we got into a little psilocybin discussion. But
Okay.
yeah, he wasn't giving me mushrooms at the time. He was just selling me a shirt. So
It's okay. you don't
Central
have to say it.
California. I'm not gonna say nothing. Jamila, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time.
Have fun with your doggy.
Thanks again to Jamila for taking the time to join me and for bringing Hostel to the table. And if you like listening to her talk about it, you can check out her letterboxd at Your Intrepid One, or you can find her on X at Jamila Brownie. And I put those links up in the show notes for you. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this episode. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please consider leaving a rating and telling a friend about it. And the new support page is live at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love, and or maybe would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me now at badmovieswelove@thesheist.com or badmovieswelove on Twitter and Instagram, and that's love with an LUV. And as always, take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies.